Hey guys, it's Jake here with eTrailer. Today we have a 2020 GMC Sierra 1500 and we're going to be taking a look at, and I'm going to show you how to install the Air Lift LoadLifter 5000 air helper springs. When it comes to towing with a GMC Sierra 1500, there's a couple of side effects that you'll get. And one of them is that you get a lot of sag in the rear end of the truck. They designed the trucks to be very, very comfortable when you're driving them down the road, but from that, you get a very, very soft rear suspension on it. And that is what's causing the sag when you put a heavy load on it. These airbags are going to help to support the rear end of the truck when you're hauling a heavy load. There's a lot of other options for suspension enhancements out there, like Timbrens or SumoSprings. There's also a road active suspension, which is a coil spring you get added to the top of your leaf pack. But this one in particular is going to be adjustable so that you can add and subtract air for the ride that you're wanting. This kit's going to be rated for a max PSI rating of 100 PSI and a max load carrying capacity of 5,000 pounds. Now, 5,000 pounds, that's a big number. People will think of it and go, oh, well, that might change my load carrying capacity of my truck. And it does not. That is strictly just to show you how strong these bags are and that they're going to hold up to whatever you want to throw at them. You do want to follow what your owner's manual says your payload or your GVWR of your vehicle is allowed to be for you to safely drive your vehicle down the road. Now, as far as the location of these airbags is, they're going to actually replace your jounce bumpers. It's pretty difficult to see inside of here, but you can see that they're going to mount to the bottom side of our frame rail and the top of our axle, and that is where they're going to supply the support. What I will say is that these particular airbags are going to have a jounce bumper on the inside, which will help to add support if you don't have quite enough air in them. This particular kit is going to come with 2 manual fills on the back. That is not a unique thing, but what I highly recommend is pairing it with an onboard air compressor. Anytime I install a set of airbags, I always recommend installing an onboard air compressor because that is going to make you want to use your airbags more. If you are constantly having to pull out a bike pump to air up your airbags or stop at a gas station and fill them up and take air out, it's a huge hassle. If you add an onboard air compressor, you can add and subtract air while you're driving down the road. Now that we've gone over some of those features, let's go ahead and show you how to get them installed. To begin our installation, you'll want to get your spare tire down and out of your way. That'll give you more room to be able to work and see what you're doing under here. And then we'll come to our heat shield. We have 6 bolts that we need to remove with a 13mm socket. Next, we'll come over to our brake line here, and we'll get a little bracket in our kit that'll allow us to drop this. And essentially, we just need to get this brake line lower so we can put some brackets in place. We'll use a 13mm socket for that too. Take this little bracket, we're going to take our factory bolt, and we'll put it right back into place. We're going to do this on both sides of the vehicle. And we'll grab one of the shorter black bolts that comes in our kit, a flat washer. We're going to line our bracket up with the new bracket we just mounted. Put that bolt into place and then follow it with a nylon lock nut. Now we're going to grab a torque wrench and we're going to torque these to the specifications in the instructions. Next up here on this bracket for some of our brake lines, we've got these 2 bolts, they're 13mm. I'm gonna run those out. And then while we're here, we're just gonna pop those 2 factory bolts out. We'll grab one of our pipe spacers and the longer bolt with a washer on it, slide this through, and we'll run it right back into that nut. And we can tighten these down. On each side of our vehicle, we're going to have 3 of these bolts that are holding this protective piece of metal on. Basically all it's doing is just protecting some wiring and some lines. We'll take a T40 Torx bit and remove these screws that are holding this on. What you're going to want to do next is we need to take our jounce bumpers off, but in order to fit the correct hardware or the correct tool up in there to remove the bolt, we're going to give ourselves a little bit more room. This is also going to help to make more room for the airbag assembly to go into place. So just take if you're doing this from the ground, take a floor jack, put it on the bottom side of your hitch, and lift up on the back of the vehicle, because this is going to separate the axle from the frame. It's going to give you more space to be able to work there. You just need a couple of inches, maybe 2 or 3 inches out of it. That should be plenty. Take a 10mm socket with a short extension, and we're going to remove these bolts that are holding our jounce bumpers on. So over on our passenger side, unfortunately, this jounce bumper bolt is seized up inside of the frame rail. I've never had this happen before, but this bolt will not come out. And now the head of the bolt is stripped out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a multi-tool and we're going to cut this jounce bumper off and then shave that bolt off. So we finally got this jounce bumper off. I ended up just having to try to sneak the multi-tool above it and just cut that bolt off. We don't really have to worry about it because our plate for our airbag will go over top of it like this, and none of this will be affected. If you have the same issue and you feel that the bolt is stripping out here, do not try to do it this way. If you try to cut this bolt off, it's very, very difficult. Where you see this top harder plastic plate, just cut off the foam right below it. This will sit up inside here and you don't have to worry about it. It won't come in contact. It was just very difficult to get through all this steel. Now we'll begin getting our airbags assembled. Now we've got our areas prepped. One side of your airbag is going to have 2 fittings. One side of your airbag will have 3 fittings. This one is for your air inlet. So we're going to start on the bottom. We'll take one of our roll plates here, set it up on top, and then whichever side your air fitting is on, which I have it to my right side, you're going to want the plate to sit on top of the airbag like this, and you want the bolt to be on this side here, so away from the air fitting, and then you want to use the set of holes that's closest to the bolt. So the air fitting's on this side, and then you've got your bolt and your 2 holes here on the back. We're going to take these flathead bolts, just thread those into place. And the brackets and the hardware for both sides are going to be the same. You just, on the opposite side of the vehicle, you're just going to take this bracket and move it over, and then the bolt will be on the other side. Now we're going to take a 7/32 Allen key and torque these down to the specifications and the instructions. Now you want to flip your airbag assembly over. Our roll pan, all 4 roll pans are going to have 3 holes in them. Just on the bottom, this bigger hole doesn't matter. It's for the top, for that air fitting to go into place. We'll take our air fitting, we'll thread it in as far as you can by hand. And then what you want to do is you want to take a wrench, wherever you start, you want to do 1.5 times from that point. So we'll go around once and a half. And that is enough to seal that fitting right there on top. Now we'll take our top bracket, and it's pretty obvious of what direction it's going to go. That little slot's going to line up with our valve there, and then you want to put a split lock washer on first, then a flat washer. You want the flat washer against the airbag, and we're going to, or the top of this bracket. We're going to thread those in. Now we'll grab our torque wrench again and torque this hardware down. Now you want to grab your bracket that looks like this. There's two different ones. We'll have a short one and a long one. The long one goes on the back side of the axle, but we'll take this. This is exactly why we loosen this bracket. We're just going to take this and set it right under here for now, just loosely until we get our airbag assembly up there. Now what I did here is I just took about 2 inches of airline from our kit. I found another Schrader valve. You can use the Schrader valve that comes in the kit because chances are you probably don't have another one at home. What we're going to do is we're going to push down on the airbag. These airbags have internal jounce bumpers, so you can only push them down about halfway. We're going to pop this in with the airbag pushed down like this, and it'll hold it so that we can get it up into place. It's a little bit awkward to try to squish it and then lift it up into place, especially for the driver's side, but now we're ready to put it up there. And we'll lift our airbag assembly up here. You want to be mindful of your brake lines. Be very careful around them. Don't want to bend them or kink them too bad. What we'll do here is just pull this out of our way. If we need to put any slight bends in them to get them out of the way, just be careful and pull them out of your way. And then once you get it to this point, we'll grab that airline that we just stuck in there and pop it out so that it re-expands back up. Just like that. Now we'll take that rear bracket and we're going to slide it up into place. Make sure you get this bolt to drop down through the hole and make sure that front of the bracket is up inside that jounce bumper resting point. Drop another bolt down through here and then put a flange nut on both of these. On the front side, we'll lift that bracket up. What you might have to do is just tap on the bracket, push it forward, or on the airbag assembly. We'll get that bolt to drop down through, and then we'll put a flange nut on that too. Now we're just going to snug these bolts up. Don't go too tight with them because we will have to torque them down, so you just wouldn't want them to be over torqued. And we'll grab our torque wrench and do that. Now we'll grab our U-bolts, we'll slide them over our frame rail. The passenger side's a little funky because we have to go behind this factory harness. Just make sure they slide down inside the holes on our bracket. Just kind of guide it through. Once you get them both in, then we can take a flange nut and put it on each side. Whenever you're tightening down hardware on a U-bolt, you want to make sure that you're going back and forth evenly so you don't put too much pressure on one side or the other. And we'll repeat that same process for the front U-bolt. Then grab your 14mm wrench and snug these up. Now you'll want to grab a 14mm crow's foot in order to tighten and torque or really just torque down the 4 nuts that are holding our U-bolts on. Once you've got the one airbag done, you want to repeat that process on the other side. What I'm going to do now is I'll take our Torx head bolts here and put these little brackets back up into place. Now what you're going to want to do is you want to take your airline that comes in your kit. You're going to have both ends. It'll be one continuous airline run. You'll cut it in half. And then you'll run one line from one bag back to the back of your truck, one line from the other. That is if you're wanting to just do 2 manual fills and not put an onboard air compressor. We're putting an onboard air compressor on this truck, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get that installed, and then we'll come back and show you how we run the lines for that. To route your air lines, basically follow your factory wiring back to the top of the first airbag, which is on our passenger side. So you can see we just followed it back along our factory wiring. If you zip tie it to the factory wiring, it should be more than safe to be able to travel down the road with. You can see here at the top of our airbag, we've got a T-fitting. This is for our passenger side airbag. You want to come into the T-fitting, down, and I always wrap it through this bracket onto the other side, which is where our fitting is at the top of our airbag, and then back out, running to the back of the vehicle. This airline here, we ran up into the hat channel and went across. And the reason I like to run it through the hat channel is so that I don't have to worry about zip tying it off to anything, and it's protected up there. Then on our driver's side, you'll see our same T-fitting. This is where our wire or our line comes out of our hat channel into the T-fitting, down into our airbag, and then back out to the back of the vehicle. Now for the back, to get your manual fills, since it's a dual fill system, you will get 2 manual fills. What I ended up doing is we've got a really nice Firestone bracket that what I'd like to do is just cut it in half and then put 1 fill on this side and 1 fill on the other side. You could definitely just put both of them on the same side. I like to make it uniform and very intentional on which one you're airing up, and then put that fill point on that side of the vehicle. So I think it turned out really nice and neat. You're not going to be able to see it when the vehicle's on the ground, and that's what the whole point is. You shouldn't have to use these unless your air compressor goes down. Once we know our compressor's working, we're going to put about 50 PSI into our airbags, and then we'll go around and we're going to check all of our fittings for any leaks. Take some soapy water, spray these fittings. What you're looking for is rapid bubbles to be forming at any of these joint sites. If you have that happen, just disconnect that particular connection and then make a cleaner cut and push it back in. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Air Lift Air Helper Springs is right for you in your 2020 GMC Sierra 1500.